This is my first video update from Nicosia, Cyprus. On this Tuesday, let's talk about the State of the Union in the United States. And Joe Bidenopoulos, Greece's favorite son, he is preparing for his second State of the Union address, which is today, February 7th, later this evening. And let me put up a tweet that the White House social media team sent out. And I guess this is Biden's desk. And he is getting ready, it says, getting ready for his State of the Union. That is Biden's notebook, I imagine. And those are his notes as he's crafting his big speech. And I guess that's a cup of coffee and a couple of chocolate chip cookies. One of the cookies, it seems to have, it seems like Biden has taken a bite out of one of those cookies. And yeah, that's Joe Biden. He's getting ready for the big State of the Union. He's going to take a whole bunch of victory laps, I imagine, this evening, especially on the domestic front. I'm sure he's going to talk up all of his big legislative and economic achievements. And I'm interested to see what Biden has to say with his foreign policy. I wonder what his rhetoric is going to be like in connection with Russia, Iran, China. I'm sure he's going to say that the United States is going to support Zelensky for as long as it takes. I'm sure that's going to be one of the lines that goes into his script. I'm sure he's going to talk about how U.S. money and weapons have led to Ukraine victories on the battlefield, and how Russia's economy is in tatters, and how the U.S. is containing Iran and perhaps containing China. Stuff like that. I imagine he's going to talk about stuff like that. I wonder if he's going to mention the balloon. I doubt it. I doubt he's going to mention the balloon. So yeah, it'll be an interesting speech from Biden this evening. I wonder how much of the speech is going to be focused on foreign policy and how much of it is going to be focused on domestic issues. That'll be interesting as well. So we have the big State of the Union, and let's now talk about, what should we talk about here? How about the 10th EU sanctions package? And Politico is saying that the European Union, they are going to put together the sanctions package, but there's not going to be really anything to sanction. Politico is reporting that the EU has run out of sanctions road in connection to Russia. And this 10th sanctions package is just going to be about eliminating loopholes in the first 9 sanctions packages. That's it. There is nothing left for the EU to sanction in connection to Russia. And so this sanctions package is going to be just more about administrative things and media spin, because the EU is going to time this sanctions package to be announced around February 24th, the 1-year anniversary of the conflict in Ukraine. And so this is just going to be all about media and PR spin. And it's a defeat for the European Union in a way, because Poland and Lithuania, they were pushing very, very hard for the EU to sanction Russian nuclear energy industry and Russian diamond industry. And Belgium put up a ton of resistance for the diamond part, and Hungary put up a bunch of resistance for the nuclear energy part. And according to Politico, the EU looks like it backed down from placing sanctions on these last 2 remaining industries. And so what we're left with is media spin. That is what we're left with. And the EU is good at that. So they probably feel very, very comfortable with with coming out on February 24th and talking up how their 9 sanctions packages have left the Russian economy in tatters, in tatters. They have to get chips from washing machines. That's how effective our 9 sanctions packages have been. and the U.S., according to Bloomberg, the U.S. is going to be placing tariffs on Russian aluminum, a duty of 200%, and it's going to probably be announced this week, is going to be placed on Russian aluminum, which, to be quite honest, in my opinion, is absolutely acceptable. It's absolutely fine. If a country wants to place tariffs and duties and taxes on products imported into that country, well, then they have a right to do so. No problem there. And the country that has these tariffs imposed on its products, they can reciprocate, and they can also place tariffs if they want. And the Biden White House, they're going to have to deal with this 200% tariff on aluminum. They're going to have to deal with whatever problems it causes for consumers or for industry. That's fine. Tariffs are fine. Trade wars, tariffs, it's all part of the game. If a country wants to do that, it's much better than sanctions. Sanctions are an act of war. Sanctions are put in place to make people suffer. Sanctions are thought to be a sign of strength and leverage, but it's actually a very cowardly and vicious act. You want to place tariffs? Go ahead, place tariffs, but sanctions are nasty. And I prefer the tariffs over the sanctions. At least with the tariffs, you're being more straight up with the country. We don't want your aluminum. We don't want you to sell your products here, so we're going to place a 200, a 2,000, whatever, a 2,000% tariff, and that's that. Deal with it, and we're going to deal with it here with our domestic market as well. We'll figure it out as we place this tariff, and if it means we get into a trade war, fine, whatever. But sanctions are just nasty and cowardly and vicious. Take a look at what's happening in Syria. They're trying to deal with this catastrophic earthquake, and they have U.S. sanctions on top of the earthquake to deal with. And it just makes things a lot harder. You know, it makes things harder for the people of Syria, for the government, for institutions that want to provide aid, humanitarian aid to Syria, as they try to deal with this earthquake. They also have to deal with the sanctions as well. They have to think about the sanctions as they provide aid to Syria. So it just makes the suffering that much worse because you have these sanctions in place. What the U.S. should do, what the collective West should really do, is they should pause the sanctions against Syria for like 6 months so they can deal with the earthquake. That would be the right thing to do. That would absolutely be the right thing to do. Is just put a pause in it, just for 6 months, so that you can alleviate some of the hardship of the people. But the collective West and the U.S., they're not going to do that. They are not going to do that because the goal of the sanctions is to cause the people to suffer. Even though the humanitarian thing to do would be to pause things for a couple of months. Anyway, should we do an update on Ukraine? Things in Bakhmut are looking very, very bad for the Ukraine military. From what I understand, the final road that was open into Bakhmut for Ukraine has now come under Russian artillery fire, and I guess we're either there or we're close to getting there with an operational encirclement of Bakhmut. We're very close or we're already there. Either way, it looks really, really bad for the Ukraine military in the Bakhmut area. And I believe there was Ukraine media that said what did they say, that Ukraine soldiers sent to Bakhmut have something like a life expectancy of like 4 hours, and this is coming from Ukraine military, Ukraine media. They're the ones that are saying this. Something like 4 hours is a life expectancy when they're sent to the front line in Bakhmut. Just a terrible figure there. I mean, just anyway. More tanks are trying to be gathered up and sent to Ukraine. Business Insiders saying that Germany is trying to send something like 187 Leopard 1s to Ukraine, though they don't have a definite number. But it's interesting how the narrative has now shifted from Leopard 2s to Leopard 1s. You can see this walk back from Germany. Poland is saying that they don't have the F-16s to send to Ukraine, and that they would like NATO to come out with some sort of unified kind of policy or directive in connection with fighter jets to Ukraine. So Poland is starting to walk back the whole F-16 thing as well. We got the first photos of Leopard 2 tanks from Canada. I believe 2 of 4 Leopard 2 tanks that are being sent from Canada to Ukraine, but those tanks have arrived in Poland, and we actually saw the first photos of those tanks arriving in Poland. The Canadian defense minister was very proud of getting those Leopard 2s to Ukraine. Basically, we've done our part. You see, here are our Leopard 2s. We got them to Ukraine. We're all good now. You can't blame us for the Ukraine military collapse that's coming. You see, our Leopard 2s are there. There are the photos, proof that we sent our Leopard 2s. We're not to blame for the Zelensky regime collapse. And it really does look like you're going to be getting an Zelensky regime collapse, because they are isolating Zelensky with each passing day. I talked about yesterday about the Minister of Defense, Reznikov. It definitely looks like he is out. Actually, he's definitely out. Though you do have some parliament members in Ukraine saying that they're going to delay the official announcement of his dismissal until after an alleged Russian offensive that's coming in February. I don't quite understand their thinking, but they believe that without a doubt the Russians are going to launch some really, really big, massive offensive to celebrate. Let me cross. To celebrate the 1 year anniversary of the SMO, and so they want to keep Reznikov in place until after the Russian offensive. Just the fact that they're talking about the defense minister being fired while you have all of this going on in Bakhmut, and you have a Russian offensive that, in their minds, is coming. I mean, they're convinced that it's coming, and maybe it is. The Financial Times is saying that it's coming. The Institute for the Study of War is saying that it's coming. They say it's going to come from Kharkov, it's going to come from Zaporozhye, it's going to come from Bakhmut. Everyone is saying it's going to come from 3 or 4 different areas. But the fact that you're getting rid of the Minister of Defense at this time is, says it all. And this is Zelensky's guy. This is Zelensky's buddy. Weren't they telling us for the last 10 months that it was Shoigu that was on the chopping block? Wasn't that the narrative? That Shoigu is suffering from heart ailments. He's already had 3 or 4 heart attacks. That Putin is not happy with Shoigu. He's not happy with any of his generals either. And he's firing all of them. And Shoigu is he's gone because he's done such a poor job and Russia's losing. Weren't they telling us that? And now it's Reznikov, the Ukraine Minister of Defense, that's on the way out. Everything that they say is projection. Everything that they say is projection. Listen to this statement from one of the security guys, like a chief level security guy, Danilov. He's actually making a lot of press statements now too. He's angling for, like Budanov, the military intel chief. This guy's angling for a higher position. He said that Russia begins to beg for negotiations with help of mediators, according to NSDC Secretary Danilov. Projection, it's all projection. The minute you hear a statement like this coming from like a top level Ukrainian official, just understand that it's Ukraine that is begging for negotiations with help of mediators, or it's the EU that is begging for some sort of negotiations to take place, like Germany is begging for a ceasefire. The one country that is not begging for a ceasefire is Russia, even though he says Russia begins to beg. Just replace Russia with a country from the collective West. CIA Burns or Olaf Scholz or Zelensky or whatever. It's just definitely not Russia. It's all projection. It's all projection from them. Shoigu is going to be fired by Putin because he's doing such a bad job. Who did they end up firing? Reznikov. It's a windy day today. It's a very, very windy day. So let's do one more story and then we'll get to my clown world. And the interview that the former Israeli prime minister gave the other day, the 5-hour interview, we've got some more news, some more interesting quotes from that interview. According to the former Israeli prime minister, who was talking about his mediation with Putin and Zelensky, Russia and Ukraine, he said that what is happening in Ukraine was the result of Kiev's intention to join NATO. The whole war happened because of their desire to join NATO. And then Zelensky says, I reject this idea, Bennett said, but the West interfered. So he was trying to mediate the peace deal. The whole thing was a result of Zelensky, of Ukraine continuing to double and triple down on NATO membership. And when Bennett said that he was making some sort of progress in the mediation, the West interfered and said, nope, there is not going to be any peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. And Ukraine now, since we're talking about Israel, Ukraine is demanding that before the Israeli foreign minister travels to Kiev, they are demanding that Israel, number one, condemns Russia, publicly condemns Russia for what's going on in Ukraine, and number two, loan Zelensky $500 million. What can you say? Ukraine is demanding that Israel, before the foreign minister makes, I believe, his first trip to Kiev. I believe this is going to be the first trip to Kiev. Zelensky is saying, before you come, you have to bring a suitcase with $500 million. The stuff of mafia. This is the stuff of mafia. I'm telling you. I don't even know if it's the stuff of mafia. Maybe it's the stuff of just spoiled children. Who knows? So let's do a clown world, and we can wrap this video up. And the The obvious clown world would be the Grammys. I think that's the obvious clown world because the Grammys just were full on Satan themed, Satan motif. But I'll add two more clown worlds connected to music. So we have the Grammys, 12.5 million viewers tuned into the Grammys, which is a little better than previous years, but still very, very low, like very low. There was a time when the Grammys would pull in something like 30 or 40, even 40 million viewers. They would definitely get viewership in the mid 20s to 30 million. Now they're at 18. Now they're at 12 million, and that's pretty bad. That's very, very bad. But this year they went full devil worship, and wow, what a terrible display that was. What a terrible display that was. I believe Elon Musk even tweeted something like the display at the Grammys was just, end of times type of stuff, just really, really, really crazy and disgusting, just disturbing and disgusting, but expected. And, the argument is that, this has happened before. The music industry has always had artists that have gone along with this type of, I don't know, let's say devil or Satan kind of theme, I guess you could say. You can go back to artists like, say, Ozzy Osbourne or Alice Cooper, or I don't know, Motley Crue, Iron Maiden. I don't know, say artists like that. And you can make the argument that, say heavy metal or various artists were trying that whole Satan line way back when. And, this is just par for the course in the music industry. But there's two big differences. The first difference I see is that those artists that I mentioned, the Ozzy Osbournes and Iron Maidens and artists like that, actually had talent. They actually could write songs, play instruments, and actually have had talent. They were real musicians, unlike what we saw at the Grammys the other day. And the other big difference is that even though you had those artists playing up, you could say, the devil angle in their music, if you believe that, playing up the devil angle in their music, those were the artists. You never had the Grammys doing that. You never had the institution, like the big music institution, the Grammys, in their awards show, going full Satan. So I think those are the two big differences there. But they're desperate for attention, no doubt about it, and they will sell their soul for that attention. Staying with music, we have an update connected to the San Remo Music Festival. Remember that music festival in Italy where Zelensky wanted to speak during that music festival? Well, it looks like Zelensky is not going to be allowed to speak at the San Remo Festival because the people that were against having Zelensky come on via video and ask for money and weapons during this music festival, they gathered around 95,000 signatures in their petition to block Zelensky from speaking. And it now looks like the organizers of the festival are going to block Zelensky from speaking. Even Salvini came out and said he doesn't want to see Zelensky speaking at this music festival. He said this festival should be about music. We don't need Zelensky there to talk about the conflict and to ask for money and weapons. And so So it was a success. The petition and the movement to block Zelensky from speaking at this music festival was a success. And another bad sign for Zelensky. A very, very bad sign for Zelensky. You know, he's furious when he gets blocked for speaking at these types of music or theater or entertainment type of events. You know, Zelensky really, really likes to show up at these events, and so I imagine he is absolutely furious that he was blocked from speaking. But what a win there! And we have another clown world connected to music, and it deals with Anna Netrebko. Anna Netrebko. And Ukrainian musicians are refusing to perform on the same stage with this Russian opera singer, Anna Netrebko. According to Deutsche Welle, the matter concerns the May Festival in Wiesbaden, Germany. The Ukrainian Culture Ministry delivered an ultimatum to the festival organizers, either Ukrainian performers or Netrebko. The management of the theater, which will host the festival, said it was unacceptable to pose this question in a free country. The theater said it adheres to anti-war positions and supports Ukraine, but this can't mean that it's ready to condemn all Russian culture and exclude Russian artists only on the basis of their origin. The support of Ukraine is so similar to like the support of like Pfizer and stuff like that, isn't it? And didn't Pfizer? They were actually the commercial sponsor of the Grammys, weren't they? But the whole thing is so. It just reminds me so much of what happened 2-3 years ago, where now you have this music festival saying, you know, look, we're not going to discriminate based on culture, but we absolutely believe in Ukraine. We support Ukraine in much the same way they would have said 2-3 years ago. We support the you know what. It's the same exact thing. It really is the same exact thing. They have to say they support it, but they're trying to also say, look, we support it. Believe me, we support it, but please don't give us this type of ultimatum where we have to ban artists and ban cultures and singers, and you know, it's the same thing. It is the same thing. But so far, it looks like this festival, this theater is holding the line. We'll see if they can withstand the pressure. An ultimatum again from Ukraine officials. Either our artists or the Russian artists. If I was running the theater, I would say, well, if that's the case, we're going to stick with Anna. We'll stick with the Russian opera singer, and the Ukraine singers. Well, you can make up your mind. Do you want to be part of this festival or not? Anyway, that is the clown world. That is the video, everybody. theduran.locals.com. We are also on Rockfin as well. And go to the Duran shop. 10% off. Use the code. Good day. Take care.